This is Jonathan Lipson with The Real Deal on Contracts. Today we're going to talk about the formation of contracts. If you're in my class, this corresponds to Unit 12. We're going to talk about three things. First, how is it that the law decides whether a contract has been formed? What sorts of promises will result in a contract? Number two, what common problems do we find in formation? And number three, maybe a word or two on why the legal system has the rules that it has. Okay, first, formation. How are contracts formed? At common law, the key thing we're looking for is what we call mutual assent. So restatement of contract section 17 says the formation of a contract requires a bargain in which there is a manifestation of mutual assent to the exchange and a consideration. Now, the word consideration is an important word, but we can ignore that word for now. We'll come back to it in some subsequent units. For now, what we're focused on is mutual assent. How do we know whether there has been mutual assent? Well, essentially, we're looking for offer and acceptance. Restatement section 22 says the following: the manifestation of mutual assent to an exchange ordinarily takes the form of an offer or proposal by one party, followed by an acceptance by the other party. Fine, offer, acceptance. But it goes on to say, a manifestation of mutual assent may be made even though neither offer nor acceptance can be identified, and even though the moment of formation cannot be determined. What this is telling you is that the restatement recognizes that in the real world, people do not walk around saying, I hereby make an offer, and I hereby accept that offer. Right? That's not what happens. Instead, as lawyers, what we have to be able to do is interpret communication, interpret manifestations, a fancy word for communication, interpret them to decide, yes, that was an acceptance, that was an offer rather, and yes, that was an acceptance, or no, it wasn't an offer, no, it wasn't an acceptance. Okay, that's the common law, and that's really kind of mostly what we care about here. The UCC has a slightly more relaxed approach. Article 2, 204 says that a contract for sale of goods may be made in any manner sufficient to show agreement, including conduct by both parties, which recognizes the existence of such a contract. As you'll see, the UCC has a few rules on formation, and they are typically a little more liberal or relaxed than the common law, meaning that the UCC is not so concerned with whether a contract has been formed, but instead is more concerned, as you've seen from prior units, with whether or not there's a remedy that's available, and if so, how to determine that remedy. Okay, but let's talk about offer and acceptance. What is an offer? An offer, as the restatement says, section 24, manifestation of willingness to enter into a bargain, so made as to justify another person in understanding that his assent to that bargain is invited and will conclude it. Okay, so some fancy sounding words that basically say you've got to communicate a willingness to do a deal. How is it accepted? What is acceptance? Acceptance of an offer, restatement section 50 says, is a manifestation, and this word manifestation, of assent to the terms thereof made by the offeree, person to whom the offer was made, in a manner invited or required by the offer. Right, so it's fairly intuitive, right? Offers communication of a willingness to do a deal. Acceptance is communication of the fact that you're accepting it. Fine. Those are the two basic rules on formation. Let's talk about some of the problems that we typically find. There's 7 of them. Number 1, the mirror image problem. At common law, the basic idea is that the offer has to be accepted in more or less the form in which it was made. The offeree cannot say, I accept, but, and then add some other terms. If the offeree does that, they're not actually accepting the offer, but instead making a counter offer under restatement section 59. In that event, then the offeror has a choice. Either they accept the counteroffer, or there just isn't anything at all. Number 2, revocation of the offer. When can the offeror say, you know what, I don't want to do this? Generally, offers are revocable at will by the offeror until they are accepted by the offeree. There's an exception for what we call option contracts. So if someone purchases an option, what they're really doing is purchasing the right to accept a contract at some defined point of time or during some defined point of time. But in the absence of an option contract, the offeror can revoke whenever they want until acceptance. So number 3, what kind of problems arise with acceptance? Well, one of the classic ones involves what's sometimes called the mailbox rule. Under this rule, acceptance occurs at the moment that the offeree, person to whom the offer was made, puts the offer in the mail. That's not literally what it says. Puts the offer, the acceptance rather, out of the offeree's possession. This rule is important because it means that acceptance occurs once the offeree is accepted, even if the offeror never actually gets the acceptance. This is the rule of Restatement Second, Section 63. And so what it means is it puts the burden on the offeror to make sure they know whether or not the offeree has accepted, or conversely, to define a specific way that the offeree can accept. Number 4, advertisements. Are ads offers? Answer, according to the Pepsi case, generally no. Exception, well, if the ad is clear, definite, explicit, and leaves nothing open for negotiation, then maybe it is considered an offer, in which event acceptance can form a contract. Number 5, rewards. Are they offers? Answer, according to Pepsi, discussing a case called Carbolic Smoke, yes, they could be. An ad for a reward is considered an offer that is accepted by performance of whatever the condition in the reward is. If I offer to give $50 to somebody who finds my dog, somebody finds my dog, brings him back to me, whatever, they've accepted my offer, and I owe them $50. Number 6, acceptance by silence. What if the offeree says nothing? That can still be an effective acceptance under certain circumstances. Section 69 of the restatement says that if the offeree has taken benefits of the contract from the offeror, or if the offeror has said, you can accept by silence, or if prior dealings indicate that silence is sufficient, then in any of those 3 instances, silence may be enough to constitute an acceptance. And finally, number 7, gaps. What if there are parts missing in the offer? They've been accepted, but it's not maybe complete as to some aspects, price or term or what have you. Common law, as a general proposition, would not recognize that as an effective offer. Section 33 of the restatement says, the fact that one or more terms of a proposed bargain are left open or uncertain may show that a manifestation of intention is not intended to be understood as an offer or as an acceptance. Right? So it's got to be fairly complete to work at common law. UCC, by contrast, again, is a little more relaxed. 2204 says that even though one or more terms are left open, a contract for sale does not fail for indefiniteness if the parties have intended to make a contract and there is a reasonably certain basis for giving an appropriate remedy. Okay, so those are 7 pretty common problems that you find in formation. Third, finally, why do we have any of these rules? What are we trying to do here? Well, I think that the rules on formation involve what we sometimes think of as legal formalism. We care about a certain degree of formality in the communication that we're looking for to decide whether there was an offer or acceptance, because what we're really trying to do is decide things like, were the parties really so serious about what they were talking about that we should, in fact, say that they created contractual liability? Moreover, and probably more importantly for purposes of formation, we're trying to make sure that courts have enough information to decide what the parties were trying to do. And so we place the burden on the parties to communicate effectively. The offer has to be, made in a way that's objective and fairly clear. The acceptance, unless you have this sort of exception for silence, also has to be fairly clear. We're trying to make it possible for courts to do their jobs, and the rules on offer and acceptance, I think, in significant part, are designed to do that. That's the real deal on formation. Our next units will turn to questions of consideration.